Right. Good morning, everyone. We are on April 24th, session 21. We will primarily look at programming in Java. I'm just kidding. We are not going to do anything programming. We're going to write some simple Java programs to clarify our concepts of binary model. And one thing you need to remember is, as a DevOps, you are not expected to know all of this. Okay, this is something that the developers should be taking care of, but there's a thin line between developers and ops, right? And that thin line is DevOps. So we got to stand on the dev side, we got to stand on the ops side. And that's where the whole culture is, when the dev and the ops comes together. So it is not technically we being DevOps. It's not Samir as a DevOps or one of you as a DevOps. It's about bringing in the developer and bringing in the operations as a culture together is DevOps. I probably should have talked about this earlier, but since we are coming to this particular point wherein we are talking about looking at Java, we're talking about, we've looked at POM files before, we looked at settings file before, we looked at Jenkins files before. All of us felt at home, right? That's our world. But now when we're talking about Java, we are trying to step onto the area of developers and see what do they do and how can we help them with a niche solution or a innovative solution to produce something that we need. Okay, that's the whole intent. And we already spoke at length for about 30 minutes yesterday, and we already have a session for that, session 20 binary model, right? Where we talked about what binary model is trying to really solve. Where did that idea come from? If you search for binary model online, you'll not find anything, because it's a custom solution that we put in, right? For a problem that we had. And by looking at binary model, I'm not telling you that you go to any company, you will have a binary model in there and you'll have to go start working with it. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, here's a problem. Look at how can we solve it. There might be more than one ways to solve it. And that's my approach, right? Every single time I'm talking to you, that's always my approach. Like even when you talked about the assignment for scaling Jenkins agents dynamically, I always said, look at multiple approaches, and you came up with auto scaling group, and Rumana came up with EC2 plugin. Lovely, right? I mean, that's exactly the way I want to go. Okay, so be very, very clear that you will not see binary model anywhere in your professional life, except when you work for an organization that is already using it, and only where probably I worked earlier, right? Otherwise, you'll not see binary model. You might be able to use some of the ideas that we're learning over here. Okay, all right. That's how I'm setting the stage, but let's go and do one thing. GitHub. Let's go and create a repository for us to document all of our assignments. Do you want me to make it public or private? How do you want it? Private is fine, right? All right. So we do have it. You should have access to it. Take a look if you do. So we'll clone this repository where all the assignments could be kept. Don't I have SSH set up? Let's see if I have SSH set up. I think I thought I do. Okay, no. So if we haven't seen this before, there's a good opportunity for you to see how to set up SSH for GitHub. The whole reason I try to set up SSH is because I don't like to give user ID password every single time I'm trying to connect to this repository. Okay, so what I'll do is I've already generated a SSH key on this machine probably. I will go to here, pick up the public key. Where did it go? Okay. Pick up the public key from here and go back. Just say new SSH key. Tell paste it, add SSH key, and then go back to your organization. And when I go to repositories, lotusops assignment, I should see SSH key being shown now here. So I just copy it from here. That's the same one that I had earlier. Let me just close this to avoid confusion. This SSH. Let's go and rerun this command. You appear to have cloned an empty repository. That's fine. cd lotusops assignments. So what we will do is we'll probably create folders in here. First one was, I mean, I would let you guys also add assignments in here, but the primary one was Jenkins dynamic workers, correct? I'm not going to spend too much time putting in a lot of instructions here, but we would want to create and register new Jenkins agents / workers using elastic capability. That is, we should be able to create, add and use nodes when the load is more and load is more, and when the load drops down, we should be able to scale down the nodes. So Romana and Sarjana, you can add your proposed solutions over here if you want to, or you can add a different folder, different file, and say solution 1 reference this file, your Word document or whatever, and then solution 2 reference the other one. Okay. Get the status. Okay, that's the one. And then I would want you to create one more. If you get some time later, I will show you how to start about, but set up Prometheus and Grafana to monitor Jenkins instance. Are you new? You say new anywhere? Not here. Okay. Remember, we are not using Docker to set up any of this. The first one is talking about Docker and how to set up in Docker. We will go that route just before we start getting into the world of Kubernetes. But for now, I want to install it natively. That's why I'm putting up separate links over here. But this link talks about how to eventually set up. So I was already getting to it. So if you see here, I've set up a plugin, Prometheus plugin. This gives me all the metric. So the whole idea is Prometheus will be able to scrape this or read this data, and then Grafana will be able to plot chart using that scraped data. Okay, all the jargons that I'm using, don't worry about it. When you start reading the references, you'll get an idea about it. The intent of this assignment is to install Prometheus and Grafana to monitor the Jenkins instance we have installed. Third one is the most important one. This is normal exercise that you would always do, right? Do it all manually, and then eventually do it using Terraform. So that one applies to this assignment also, which I believe so the intent of this assignment is to create and register new Jenkins agent. Jyoti, is this good?
Yeah. Good, Samir. I too will try to add some of the previous assignments.
Yeah, can you do that?
Yeah, I will do that, Samir.
Sure, and we can even make it public if somebody wants to take benefit out of it, right? I don't mind. I mean, I don't want to be protecting all of this. The intent is not that. So eventually, if you feel there's any repository that your friends need, that you're sharing these videos with, and you have to make it public, I'm completely open to make it public, right? Don't worry about that. All right, so this is done. So let's get off from here. Let's go to what we really need to do. So we will go ahead and create a couple of projects. And those couple of projects are going to be created here. Wait, where did I create the README file? I thought I had 2 folders there, isn't it? Folders there. What happened? Why is it not? I didn't do add. I did AM, and AM only applies to modified files, not new files. You know what I'm saying here, right? So now you should see both of them. And you can also put a README file outside to reference each one of them and talk about them if you want to. Feel free to do whatever you want to do. So you're all able to access this project, right? Lotus Ops assignments.
Yes, Samir. We have access.
All right, so let's go ahead and start with what we originally wanted to start with. We are going to create a couple of projects. First of all, we'll create a project called just keep it as lotusops-franework private. Let's add a README file. Okay, that's the first repository what we have. The second repository that we have will be services. Oh, shoot, it created. Anyway, that's fine. The third repository that we have will be, I think we can play with this too to start with. Keep it simple. Okay. Right. Where is the maven project? It's here. Just going to take these commands from here. But let's take the whole thing. So we want to generate the first one, group lotusops. Call it as framework as the group ID. And the project is going to be lotusops-franework. Please stop me if you do not follow something, okay? You have already done this, so I'm just trying to go a little quick. And down here, in the framework, we'll just keep one module. In the service, we'll just keep one module for now, and then we'll multiply it to increase the complexity, okay? So we'll call it as services, and we do not need both of this for now. And this will be right. So what I will do now is I will go and clone those two projects, which are here. This is fine. This we can do it later. You know what? I will do the same thing for framework. I don't want to add the README file because then I'll have to move things around. So let me delete this one.
Paste enter.
Okay, and then we will create the I don't want to add a README file because I can just create the folder and then add this over there. Let's go here. And what I will do is I will create a new folder called binary model demo. And in here, I will clone those. You know what? I don't need to clone it. I have to just use those commands which I have here. So I'm going to take this one here to create the skeleton. That should create the framework skeleton. Wow, it's thinking so long. Give it some time. Romana, you're following what we're trying to do, right? At least up until now. Yes?
Yes, that's yes.
Okay. I don't know why it is taking so long. It's like really thinking hard. Some of the things. Well, I don't have anything open at all. He's thinking really, really hard. I don't know what it was thinking. Okay, let's take up this other one. And remember this, right? Create children project using following command. So what I have to do is I have to get in inside that and then paste this over here. Oh, why did I do that? No. Hold on. I didn't want to do that. Okay, good. I was not trying to create a submodule, right? There was no reason for me to go inside. If I have to create a submodule, then I'll go inside that folder and then create the submodule using the same maven archetype generate. But it's amazing why it really thinks so hard. Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me while this is like thinking so hard. So, Jenna, do you have any questions or do you remember all this from the Maven sessions earlier?
I remember, Samir.
Good. Good. This is done. So we have 2 projects created over here, which are not linked to GitHub yet. So what we will do is we can just go pick up the instructions from here. So we have to do git init, git add, git commit, git branch -m. So I remember all of that. I'm just going to copy this for framework. So you have to do git init first, git add dot because we have more files there, git status. Okay, and then do a git commit -m. Initial commit. Let's say you can put any message you want to. And we have to do a git branch -m main because we want to rename the branch master to main. Changed over here. And then we have to add the remote. Where do we want to really send it? And then do a git push. That's exactly the steps what it has, but just okay. I believe no questions here too. Let's go back. There's one thing that we have to do, and I would want to do it now before we go too far, is go back here, go to the Maven repository that we had and pick up the git ignore from there. I mean, it's very critical for us to put the right git ignore files in there. So I'll copy this from here. Right, before that, let me see this. git ignore Java. Take all of this, go here, add a git ignore file. And so this is for Java, and then I will do the same thing for Maven. Copy all of this from Maven, put it in the same file. And if you want, you can always add over here, Maven git ignore below. And the top one was Java. And then we are going to be using VS Code, not IntelliJ. So I will see if I need anything from there. Because it does generate some files which we don't want to commit. So I will pick this up also. For whatever reason, do you need all of these links, or do you know how to figure it out? I believe you know how to figure it out, right?
Yes, Samir.
VS Code. All right, so we have the git ignore now, which we can reuse for all the other project, right, that we have. So I'm going to close this, and go back. Framework. And here, do a git status, git add dot, git commit -m. This is one way to use. I've already shown you this command, one line command for pushing the changes. So now what we have is, we have all of this here. There's one more critical piece that I want to really take care of is there's a settings file. I would want to use that. And this configuration, what is there is my configuration. Okay, so you'll have to use your configuration. If you want to, I usually like to keep the settings file in there. And I think that should be it. We'll have to take the distribution management though. Okay. Good. There's one thing, let's finish this up first and then I'll come to that. So we have settings.xml, pom.xml, git ignore, all of it that we need. We have it. I'm going to copy this too from here and put it for this guys also. What else? And I want to create a README file. Okay. And the same thing. I'm running the same old commands. The only thing is the remote URL is going to be different. So go to services, pick up the remote URL from here. Okay, so this also is set up. So we have two projects. One is framework, one is lotusops. That's in place. What I want to do now is I want to do a little polishing before we go too far with the binary model, right? Which we will anyway not be able to complete it today. I don't think so. 1.5 hours will be sufficient to finish it up. So we will do some polishing. The polishing is, you know what? I don't remember. Was it jfrog.io? I don't remember my user ID and password. What was the URL for JFrog? I forgot about it. It is loading. You remember your user ID and password for JFrog, right?
Yes, my.
Why is it taking so long? Is it just my network being terribly bad? Okay, so we are in JFrog and artifacts. We have maven release local and maven snapshot local and maven release. What do you write now? And then there's a more maven release virtual and snapshot virtual, which is good. So what I want to do is I want to create the enterprise POM and enterprise bill of material. We didn't look at it last time, correct? Or did we look at enterprise POM and BOM? We had installed it locally, if I'm not wrong. Let's look at maven. Where are you? Here. And pom.xml. So we were not using any parent. Did we even do EPOM all up to now? We didn't do, right?
Yes, Samir, we didn't do.
Okay, so let's do that now, because that's also a part of your work in general. So what I want to do is, why do we need EPOM? First of all, is what you need to understand, right, before you solve any problem. So if you look at this POM file, just look very closely, okay? This POM file and this POM file. Do you see anything that is being repeated? You see anything repeated? Do you see what I'm trying to show you? This whole chunk of plugin management is being repeated. You agree? See?
Yes.
Yeah. So what we want to do is, instead of letting each and every project define their own plugin management, we want to take this plugin management out and define it at a higher level. And you probably have seen those sessions earlier where I talked about, I will repeat it a little bit now, not too much in detail, just to help you refresh your memory. Oh, my system has gone slow. I'm pretty sure you remember these blocks when I talked about there's a POM file here, there's a POM file here for another project, and there's a POM file here for another project. The best thing that you could really do, especially when you were coming to dependency management, is when we talked about, so there are dependencies managed over here, there are dependencies managed over here, there are dependencies managed over here. the first approach to get to a level of nirvana is go level up and say each one of them will have a dependency management section. And every other project which is under that banner is going to use whatever dependency versions are defined over here under dependency management. So this is dependency management, right? So every project could do the same thing. Every module that they have under it will all use the dependency management defined over here. Same way for these guys, right? So this is level 1. This is level 2, which is a good practice, right? And the level 3 is you take all of those dependencies out in a separate file, and across the vertical, all of them use that same file. You remember this diagram? I have drawn this earlier. So this could be EPOM, or it could be EBOM, and we will talk what are the two differences. But do you get the idea what we're trying to do? We are trying to move towards level 3 of good practice. You guys remember plugin management and dependency management, right? Or you don't remember?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
yes.
Okay. So let's move here, and we would definitely want to do some bit of fanciness around here, but just so that I keep the concept simple, what I want to do is I want to just follow what is in here. And I want to come in here and just pick this whole chunk from here. Just pick it out, the whole chunk. Okay. And I'm going to create a new file with definitely all this header. Format it, okay, and save this over here in a new folder called, let's call it as EPOM. Okay, and we are going to advance this further and further as we move on, but what I will call this as is pom.xml. Okay, are you guys with me so far? I haven't done anything interesting, right? So let's go here and call it as lotusops enterprise and lotus, and this one as lotusops epom, and the version I'll call it as 1.0.0 snapshot lotusops epom and .com. Okay, we are here, and I'm going to start doing some kind of a cleanup over here. So just clean things up. I just like to keep it a little cleaner. And what I'm going to do is, and again, you'll have to do this, okay, later on when you get time, if you're not able to finish. I'm going to go to each and every plugin and I will see if this is latest. For sure, it's not going to be latest, okay? So maybe the best way to do is this. So 3.2.0. So I'm changing it to 3.2.0. Okay. Go to the next one similarly.
If you don't keep the version, will it bring in later, Samir?
That is not what we want to do, even though it will do it, Romana. The reason is anything that you do for production, and it's a good thing that you asked, it's a good question. But in general, remember this, anytime you're doing something for production, you always want to tie it down to a specific version so that you do not get into a situation that something changed and you don't realize what happened. That applies to Docker images too. When you build your own Docker images, don't do from : latest, or don't do something and don't define colon and the version number, because then you would get into trouble.
Right. Go with the stable version.
Yes.
Mature version.
So release resource plugin is 3.2.0 again. Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is the reason I'm doing this is the more I do this, you'll probably just remember it next time. And I cannot proceed without finishing this. So 3.10.
Not one.
M6. Anything for before? So 2.2.2. I'm not going to use milestones. I'll leave it out. But usually it's okay to use milestone. Like if you see this is 19 and then there's a one which is 2022. So let's try to use it unless we get into some problem. Yeah, not even using Surefire plugin. I mean, Surefire plugin is used only for unit testing. So I don't really care at the moment. Makes sense so far, right?
Now that you have moved it one level up, you'll have to remove it from service project as well, right? Service project 1.5.
Yeah, we will do that. That's the, yes, that's right. So we are taking it up, so we'll have to remove from all of it. But first, let's this working, and then we'll get to that, right? So now what I want to do is I want to just play a little bit with this and see if I'm able to install it locally first. So remember, I had shown you the mvn install file command earlier. I'm going to copy this, put it up into your README file eventually. So I will don't need any of this. So maven install file -d file. The file will be whatever that path is. I think this is good to put in. Meaning what is opened?
TextPad,
TextPad usually no.
enterprise form, the second one.
This one?
Second.
What do you mean second?
I mean, second POM file in this. Yes, that one.
Third one, right, Romana?
Oh, I meant second POM file.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Notepad has a block. It's not Notepad. It's something else. What is it?
Yes, code.
Do we have VS Code open? I don't think so. I don't know. What is it? Have anything open? Why should it? Complain about it. Strange. What are you talking about? Just have one file in there. Anyway, I'll ditch that and create a new one. Okay, and this file I'm going to pick from here, put it up over here, and this instructions I will copy it there. You don't have to hunt around. Okay. Change this instruction to say .pom.xml. Group ID is, I don't need to define this, define this, define this. Let's take the other instruction. For your reference, I can probably leave this in here. There are two ways to do it, but you know what? Let's not confuse you. Let's get rid of this guy because we have a POM file, so we don't really need to specify any of it. It already has that details in there. Okay. So that's what we are going to do first and see if it works. So let's go here, open up a new Git bash and see if we're able to install this. And this is putting up in the
M2.
local repo, M2 repo.
This is just a basic Java project, right, Sam, which we are building.
Sorry.
This is just a basic Java project that we are building, right? That we
No,
created out of.
we've not even started it yet. Framework and services are the Java project. This EPOM is just the EPOM.
Oh, yes.
It's nothing to do with Java.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, so this has installed 100, but we don't want to have 100 snapshot. We want to have 100 to start with, or it's okay, maybe. In a real world, you'll never have snapshots for enterprise POMs. You'll always do releases that projects use. Maybe you can do a test with snapshot if you want to. So, but for our case, we'll just leave it as snapshot here. So it did deploy that POM. Now, a quick test that we want to do is go back to the framework POM, and it doesn't have all of those plugin dependencies over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to say this one needs to have a parent. I'll copy the group ID, artifact ID, and version number of the EPOM. Go back over here and just paste it here. Any question so far?
No.
Good. Now you understand why I like to go the way I go.
Back and forth.
Yeah, so it makes my life a little easy now that you know Maven. So we didn't go in depth of Maven, but everything that we do, your brain is able to subconsciously think about it, and you're able to tell me that you understand this. So that's a good sign. All right, so what I've done is I've defined the parent as the EPOM, and everything else remains the same. And I want to go build that project quickly.
Compiler version, do we need to change some? 1.7.
We will have to, I think, I don't know what version I have. 17 maybe. Yeah. Yes, we will have to change it. But for that also, when we bring in the, let's do this. Yeah. So let's leave it this way in the parent POM.
Pretty much everything which is common across could be moved up to EPOM, right? Now you have.
Correct. Correct. And then if somebody wants to really use Java 8 instead of 17, they can redeclare this property in their project, and then 17 will be overwritten by Java 8. So here I can declare that property again. And instead of 17, I can say 8 and it'll work.
Right.
Okay. So that override is always there. And there's one more nice thing that I want to do, which I usually prefer to do, is all of this, right? There's one more hidden technique that I want to really show you guys about how to efficiently work. Okay. Did I talk about this before? How to efficiently work?
No, Samir.
Well, that will cost you some extra
You,
dollars. If I have to
you
tell
have been talking about it on and off in pretty much every session. And
tell me, what is it?
no, I can't recall. But yes, we keep getting such tips from you. Yes, of course.
All right. So look at what I'm doing, okay? And then I'll tell you the secret.
Samir, are you trying to declare variables?
Yeah. Yeah, but that's not the secret. You looked at what I just did, right? Right now?
Yeah, I did.
The next thing, okay, what I'm doing, just look at the pattern is what I'm trying to get to. If anybody can guess what I'm trying to get to, please interrupt and tell me what I'm trying to get to. Not what I'm trying to do, what pattern I'm trying to show you here. And this is my own pattern, okay? It's not copied from anywhere. You guys might be thinking all sophisticated thing. It's a simple thing.
To override the version of the plugins?
Yeah, I mean, intent is clear, but look at how I'm doing it. Did anybody identify the pattern? Did anybody identify the pattern that I was trying to follow? There's a hidden secret into it.
Instead of disturbing the total file, if we want to change anything, we can change it.
Okay, that's my answer.
Yeah.
Somebody else want to go in and tell me what the pattern was, not the problem that we're trying to solve. Okay, everybody knows what the problem we're trying to solve. What is the pattern that I'm talking about? Do you want me to reveal it? Or Jyoti, do you want to give a try?
Yes, I mean, all I understood is whatever we define in properties, we can use for those properties, those variables for all the plugins.
Yeah, but that's a technical pattern, right? That's what we want to do. Everybody knows that what we're trying to do there.
Yes.
But what I'm trying to tell you is the hidden secret of how to efficiently work. Did you recognize that pattern? Did you realize what pattern it is?
No.
Okay, let me tell you something. Probably one of the most important thing, which I usually tell you, you should write down somewhere and then read through it, right? As words from me. This is another thing that you have to write down, because this is how I'm able to finish things faster and rest more than compared to anybody else. I have realized it, I'm not sure through reading books or through experience or whatnot. I've realized how our brain works. The way our brain works is our brain does not like context switching. Our brain likes to follow a single pattern. And if you tell it, this is the pattern you have to do it in, it understands that very, very fast. You can call it 3 times, but I can sometimes call it even 10 times faster than what you would do otherwise by context switching. So now with this input, let me tell you what I was trying to do. I will just take a copy of this, keep it here, and I'll roll it back. How I potentially could have done this same problem. How I could have solved this in a different way, which would not be very efficient. Okay, what I could do is this. How many types am I trying to give my brain over here? Look at it very closely. Are you getting the pattern what I'm trying to say? This is another way I could have done it, right? And things will get a little difficult now, okay? As I scroll down, I have to go copy this, put here, and tell my brain to again go down to jar, keep searching it, then copy this version from here, and then put over here. So there are at least 2 things that I'm giving my brain to context switch between. One is to copy the label. The other one is to copy the version. Okay. Versus what I did was I said, hey, my brain, go lazy. The only thing that you have to do is copy this from here, put it over here, and put version. Don't worry about anything else. Just keep doing it blindly. And as I moved forward, my fingers became so adept to write that version faster as compared to what I'm doing first time. You notice that? Once that first pattern is over for all of them, the second thing what I did was I took this from here, the whole thing version, put it over here. And that's the same pattern I followed. I gave my brain to do the same thing over and over again until we came to the end of it. And the last thing what I did was, once this was already set up, for example, you saw it, right? I was putting it up over here. I said, the only thing that you have to do is cut from here. And while you're cutting, just read this clean plugin and make sure that you're setting it for clean plugin. So my brain became more efficient to do one thing very neatly. The possibility of errors I've reduced, right? And you can actually compete with me on this. I will give you the same thing. You do it with the pattern that you want, and I'll do it with the pattern that I want. If you want, do it with your kids at home. The pattern that I'm following of doing one thing, letting your brain do just one thing at a time, will be much more faster as compared to you're doing 2 or 3 things at a time. Okay, let me give you an analogy if you're not understanding it from a technology point of view. You're trying to paint a pot. The whole idea about your paint your pot is you're going to paint it green, completely green, and you're going to draw one big red dot on it. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to draw a pot, you're going to paint it green, and you're going to draw one red dot on it. And you have to do the same thing for 20 pots. What is the best way to do it? If I was supposed to do it, what I will do is I'll first go and paint all of them green. All the 20, all of them green. So while I'm doing that green, my brain got into a habit of just painting it green. So I can close my eyes and keep doing it, paint green. Once I'm done with it, and by the time the paint also is dried, I don't have to wait for this to dry, and then I will do red, then move to the next one, paint it green, wait for it to dry, and then put red. I'm doing all of it together. By the time I'm done with the last one over here, this one is already dry. I paint it red. This one is dry. I paint it red. So what I'm doing, I'm now just painting red. You're understanding the difference, right?
Yes.
And this is something that I can easily talk, but this is something that you learn only through a habit. Many a times what we do, I keep hearing people saying is, I'm very busy. I have a lot of work. I worked with several organizations, starting from the first organization that I worked with. The only time that I really worked hard was once the first organization, I stayed back the whole night to solve a problem that they were into. And not because they asked me to, because it was out of interest. But I didn't find any organization that could put me into a situation. And Saujanya, you can ask this to Anji too, okay? He will tell you, including Zenmonics, including iGate that I was working with before. The manager in iGate would come and he would tell me, Samir, complete your 4 hours and go home. I don't want you to work for 8 hours, because if you work for 8 hours, all of us, the client expects the same thing, the same productivity as what you give from all of our other developers. So it is impacting our service. So please finish your 4 hours. If you want to read around, you want to go to cafeteria, you want to do whatever you do it, but go home after 4 hours. How do I do that? This is one of the tricks. I hope it helps you, and I hope you're understanding what I'm trying to tell you.
Yes, Samir.
Romana, you have to teach this to Kabir. Yeah. Do you want to know another trick, or do you want to go and do some technology? Do technology. You're not interested in metrics. All right, let's go here. So let me get this back from here. Okay, everybody knows why we've done it this way. So if somebody wants to change the version for whatever reason, they can, but it becomes very easy for us to manage it here versus managing it down here. Okay, so we can just see in one single place. That's the whole idea. So I will go ahead and install this. Okay, and then I will go to framework and I will see if it's still buildable. Good. So it says invalid packaging for parent POM. Yes, it is. I know it. Okay, I know it, but you tell me what is the error. Anybody?
Change the pattern in EPOM.
Okay, I go to EPOM. And what is the error here? What do you want me to do?
We have to define jar section. Now, I don't remember the tag.
Yeah, packaging form.
Packaging.
Is today's topic really dry or are you liking it?
We like it, Samir.
All right.
We want to learn even more tips and tricks.
Yeah, there's a next trick that I wanted to tell you to really help you scale up. Let this finish and I'll tell you. Just remind me if I remember. I'll tell you that. Just remind me about delegation. Okay.
Okay.
Tell me delegation pattern. I think I should come up with a book with this strategy patterns. You know, efficient work strategy patterns.
Yeah, I'll be the first one to buy it.
I mean, the whole problem is people do not know the patterns. There are no books that I came across which define these patterns. People might be talking about it here and there, but there's no defined pattern. No school teaches it, right? And that's where we get into this habit of kids, you have to work hard. I usually would love to tell kids, you have to work hard, yes. You have to work smart, yes. But you have to do things which others do not do. I think that's a bigger tip. Try to get into an area where there is, it's very, very difficult, very, very niche. And just do that little thing, you'll be recognized. That's how I look at world actually. Be the first to solve the problem. That's another thing which I would say is worth it. And all of this, I can write pages and pages about how to do it. Maybe we'll all together sit and write it someday. And if I don't write it, maybe you can listen to these lectures and derive something and then write it as a tribute to me. All right, how long will this take? Okay, while this is happening, what did we do? What did we do? We created EPOM, install it into our .m2 repo, right? That's what you did. And this is EPOM. Now we have this framework project, which is building. And while it's building, it's downloading all the artifacts from JFrog. But since we have our EPOM over here, it is not trying to find the EPOM over here. But as soon as I delete the EPOM over here, it will try to find the EPOM in JFrog and it will fail, correct? Do you agree on that?
Right.
Now, what is the best way? What is the best thing to do? Because now if you try to build this framework project, you're going to fail because you do not have this EPOM in your local repo. And that EPOM is not there in JFrog. Correct? So the best thing to do is I, as an architect, will have to, instead of putting it in here using install file, I have to use deploy file and push it to JFrog. Okay, this is what we will have to do next. So let's see if this is done. Yeah, this is done. So it is able to build, but let me simulate what will happen. Let me simulate.
Why would you want to do that, Samir?
What's that?
Why would you want to do that, not maintain locally, but have it in JFrog?
I already answered it. For me, hold on. Come on, where's my pointer? So this is me here, right? This is Samir. This is Samir's machine. Now Rumana comes here. She clones, she clones from GitHub framework project. And now she tries to build it. When she tries to build it, the framework project has a parent for EPOM. Where will it go to search for it? It will first go into your M2 repository. Do you have it?
No.
Then it will go to JFrog. Do you have it? No.
No.
So what you'll have to do is you'll have to go and install file every time. So am I going to tell this to every developer to do that? No.
Yep.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in JFrog so everybody can pick it from there. Make sense?
Yes. Got it.
So I've put a underscore here. If you can see it, great. If you can't, it's as if I'm deleting it. And now I'm going to go and try to build this project. And I'm hoping that it'll fail because it'll try to go to JFrog to download it and it'll say it doesn't find. See that? It is not able to find lotusops epom 100 snapshot. So if you, Jyoti, this is a similar error that you were seeing and I told you, right? You probably don't have that version in your JFrog. Earlier, remember?
Yes, Samir.
Yeah. So these are the errors which are important errors. And that's why I would love you guys to do this because the more the errors you see, the better it is. Okay. If I ever get into these errors, I would try to put a -x and a -e. This kind of errors never give me more information than I really need. But in general, if you get into any error, using -x, -e is a great thing to get a little more information. Like you can go and check what all you are trying to do, what all it's trying to import, so on and so forth. So it gives you a lot of information. So -x is for debug, -e is for give me more errors. Okay. All right. I already told you why that error is coming, so I have no option to ask you why it is happening. What I want to do is, well, first of all, let me take this and put it as a README file in framework before I forget this. Okay. And let's go back here, EPOM. And now what I want to do is, instead of doing this install file, I want to do a deploy file. Okay. Deploy file is a little interesting. And you'll have to pay a little attention over here while I'm doing it. It will require, okay, let's go back here. What did I do earlier? I did an install file, right? This is my system. Where did you go? When I put something in my M2 folder here, I didn't need any kind of authentication, right? Because it's in my local. I can do whatever I want to. That's why the command was very simple command. Install file, the file that you want to install. And you'd say that all the artifact ID, version, group ID, the packaging type, everything is pulled from POM file. That's why we say POM file. And it took care of it. But if I have to do the same thing for JFrog, It is not going to come for free, right? I will not be able to do a deploy file without first authentication. Agree? For authentication, what do we need in settings file? Servers, right? We have to define that server URL. You agree? You remember? You don't remember?
Yes, yes.
Good.
Yes, Samir.
So what I've done now is I've picked up the settings file. I put it over here. I will open it up. Okay. And I can use any one of these basically, but what I want to see is where is it that I want to really install it? I want to install it to the snapshot local for now. But when I'm deploying it to Artifactory, let's say I want to deploy to release local. Okay. So what I will do is I don't need all of this bulk of work what we have here. We don't really need it. But I'm not going to clean it up. We'll clean it up later towards the end once everything starts working. So I will just copy one of this. And I will put it as I'll put it as release, let's say. Okay. So that's the ID I'm using. Now what I have to do is I just have to go to here and mvn deploy file. I just need to get the syntax, that's it. Usage. Pick it up from here. Do you want me to put these URLs anywhere in any README file, or do you think you'll be able to Google when you want it?
We'll Google it, Samir.
Okay, that's good. So now if I go here, I put this command. So repository ID will be required. So I will keep this guys here as it is. I will copy as and when what I need. Okay, I'll copy this part. I would definitely need the part that I did for install file. Where is that one? But I had it somewhere here. I would need that part. So I would need this. Okay. So from the install file, I've copied -d file. So if you search over here, -d file is already there, right? So I will get rid of it. Control L. Then POM file, it's already there. I will get rid of it. There are a couple of other things that I would need. I don't need to define version ID, group ID, because I already have a POM file. I don't need artifact ID, I already have it in POM file. I don't need version, it's already there. Packaging, it's already there. Classifier, I don't need it, but even if it was required, it would have been there in my POM file. So getting rid of it. Generate POM, I'll leave it there. Generate POM description, I'll leave it there. Repository layout, I'll leave it there. The only thing that I really need is we have defined using file. So this URL will not be required. Otherwise, you can pick it up or read from a URL. What I need is this -d repository ID. You know what? URL also will be required. And this repository ID should match this. Okay, I could have always put central, snapshot, any one of those, but I want to keep it very, very straight that I want to deploy it to release local. So that's why I'm putting release over here. And the next thing that I want to do is where do I really want to deploy it, right? Is what this URL is. I'll put it here. I'll go to JFrog. Where is JFrog? Here. And I'll go to release local, where you see here. And I'll copy this guy. Okay. And put it over here. Make sense? Any questions? The thing is, now since I'm deploying it to release local, I have to make sure my POM file, right, I can always deploy it to snapshot if you want to, but in a normal world, we never deploy EPOMs to snapshot, we avoid it. But if you wanted to deploy it to snapshot as it is, right, without changing the POM file, I could do the same thing, but instead of this, we'll have to use snapshot local, and we have to make sure in settings there is snapshot ID, which is there, snapshots. So I will call it as releases, if that's the case. So repository ID will be releases, and here repository ID will be snapshots. You're with me so far?
Yes.
Okay. So we are going to deploy. We are going to deploy the snapshot. That's why I'll pick up this one first. I will go back to the same place where we were deploying, installing basically, and I'll see if this works. Okay, and seems to be fine to me. Let's try it. If it fails, we'll figure out what's going on. Okay, it failed. It says authentication failed. Authentication failed. All right, so I'm thinking the URL that I'm using is not right. So let's pick up from, I thought it is going to be something similar, isn't it? It is.
That token, Samir, the token that we are using, do we need to regenerate for some reason?
Well, it should not be. Oh, did I say
Password.
this? This one, right?
Yeah, now that we are using snapshot, yeah, they pretty much they're all same password, right? Password. Do we need to regenerate or have this secure something? I remember we doing EPM something.
Wait, hold on. It is failing on uploading, isn't it? Could not transfer metadata. So it is failing on uploading. It is giving me a 401. I'm trying to think. Because this one was generated.
There was a command we used EPM or something, right?
Yeah. No, but this is what is working, right? Like if you see all of this, they're working. They're able to go download from Artifactory. Now while uploading also deploy file, deploy also worked for us with the same password. So if you see here, all of the four are the same passwords.
Right.
Right. So I don't see there's a problem with password per se. 401 is a credential error, but we'll have to figure out why. Let's see. Let me think. Snapshot local. I just want to make sure that it's not snapshots. The URL is correct, right? It is correct. It is correct. Repository ID. Oh, shoot. Wait. I didn't do. You have to define the settings file, right? Which settings file? By default, it will use the default settings file. You still didn't get it? I think that is the error.
Samir, I did the same mistake, but I forgot again.
Yeah, so that was the error. Now, if I go to JFrog and if I go to snapshot local, expand it, I should see that over here. See it? Make sense? Now, if I go to my framework, which was failing earlier, right? Try to build it. Hopefully it should work. Oh, it is cached. So let's see if we're able to do this. Minus U is to force snapshot, okay? It had already cached earlier, so it was failing. Now it would have fetched it over here. You see, it has fetched it. So I can really delete this one now. So now if you try to build it, you'll not have to worry about EPOM. Your EPOM will already be there. So before I forget, let me put EPOM also in here. Correct? Lotusops-EPOM. Are you all following or you're not following?
Following Samir.
Right, Samir.
The only thing that you'll have to do after you clone this, and if you try to upload it or install file or deploy file using in your own local, just remember that the settings file that you're using is mine. So you'll have to just make sure that you enter the password over here, which is encrypted for you and the email address that you need. You get my point, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
good. All right, so let's go ahead and I'm kind of comfortable to put this settings file here with all the user ID and password here because this is the encrypted password. I hope we remember that, and that's what Romana was trying to bring forward. But that was not the reason why it was failing. It was failing because I didn't specify settings file, and when I do not specify the settings file, it will use the default settings file, either from the Maven installation conf directory or from .m2 repository, honoring .m2 repository first. If it is not there, then it will finally fall back to the Maven installation conf directory, CONF directory. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So now we have a EPOM, we have a framework project, which is just a shell. There's nothing in there. And we have to do the same thing what we did for framework in services, right? So let's go ahead and do that. First of all, what can we take from here? Technically, I think we can take all of it and we'll change the group ID, artifact ID, and the version number. So I'll take all of this. I will keep a copy of this guy here, just so that we can reference. Replace. Oh, shoot. Replace. And do a quick comparison between these two and change. Take the. Have you all taken Beyond Compare? Did you buy Beyond Compare?
Not yet.
Okay, if you can, please do buy it, or at least use the evaluation version, because this is also part of your syllabus. That this is one of the things that you'll be doing the most in any organization you go to. Somebody will tell you, find out what is different. I messed up Git repository. Can you please fix it? Those are the things that are going to come up. Okay, so services, group ID, artifact ID, and version number. I will copy from here. I'll put it here. Services. We don't need any of this, right? That should be it. I think I don't need anything else. So close it. And let's open this over here. Worked. So if it worked, I'll delete this. I'll just look at the packaging, make sure everything looks good. It's 1.0. I don't want 1.0. I want 1.0.0 version. So update this guy. And I will go and update the framework also because that also has the same thing here. Oh, okay. Maybe because we copied over the whole thing, the version also got messed up. This is good. Yeah, that looks good. So we are set. The skeleton is ready, but we've not done anything that's binary yet. You understand that, right?
Yes.
Yes, Samir.
So we have, are you guys already tired? If you're tired, we can take a break. I will commit all of this. Give me 1 second. Okay, everything is pushed, everything is available for you. There's one thing that I would want to do is to create a EBOM, enterprise BOM, which will be almost similar line on EPOM. The only difference between EPOM and EBOM is EBOM only manages dependency. EBOM only talks about dependency. EPOM could have enforcers and plugins and whatnot in EPOM, but EBOM will only be bill of material. You're only talking about the third-party dependencies that you're using. Okay. I will stop here actually, because I think we've done quite a lot. Your brain has to digest quite a lot. But we can, do you have any questions?
Dependencies also can be managed in EPOM, right? If we want.
If you want to, yes, it can be. But I love to keep dependencies in a bill of material, a separate bill of material, because that bill of material, which you've not even seen yet. Let me go here.
I think last time we discussed about that.
Yeah, so you want to have your bill of material, enterprise level. Now, when we talk about security scanning, many security scanning tool actually accepts bill of material. If you have EPOM and BOM together, this guy is going to get confused about it. That's why we try to keep, so usually they call it as SBOM, software bill of material. So you can actually submit software bill of material to this tool, and then it'll tell you what vulnerabilities do you have.
Okay.
Black Duck also, can we consider a security scanning tool?
Yes, yes. So there is Black Duck, there is dependency check, there is Veracode, there is dependency track. There are several. Okay, Veracode does quite a lot of things, and this is where we've not talked about is I'm talking about SCA, software composition analysis. Veracode also does SAST, software application security testing. What is the difference between SCA and SAST? Do you want to know it now, or do you want to wait until we get there?
We will wait until we get there, Samir.
Yeah, the reason is I'm trying to keep all of this out, right? That's what I told in today's session. If I want to take these sessions for like next 1 or 2 years, I can easily drag it for 1 or 2 years. But that's not the intent. As we move forward, as we start looking at dependency, I'm going to connect the dots. So the whole thing that I'm trying to do is play with your brain. So I'm treating your brain as a baby brain, right? I cannot flood it with information. So I'll give little information at a time. The only thing that you have to do is practice. If you do that, I'm pretty sure you're not going to forget what I'm teaching you. All right, I'm going to stop recording here. We can still talk after we stop recording, but just to keep this recording a little short. Thank you so much for this, and we'll meet next week again.